This country was the first and is still the only communist country in the Western Hemisphere. Can you guess which? What happened there on this day? Keep watching to find out if your guesses are right. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Sotonye Afiesimama. If you're a subscriber, thanks for your support. If you are a returning visitor, I appreciate you dropping by once again. Why not subscribe so that you receive updates of my video uploads? If you're here for the first time, welcome to my channel, where I discuss events that occurred on this day in history with a view to informing, hopefully entertaining, and most importantly, that we learn lessons from the positive as well as the negative events that happened in the past, with a view to hopefully not repeating those mistakes, because as the saying goes, history tends to repeat itself. So guys, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, let's get cracking with today's important events as recorded in history. First, we shall go to the year 1942, so not too long ago. This was the day that Leslie Groves and J. Robert Oppenheimer, pictured here. This was the day that he chose the Los Alamos site in New Mexico as the site of Project Y, which developed the first atomic bomb. So these are the guys pictured here, the leaders they're called. The Manhattan Project was directed by General Leslie R. Groves. Research was directed by physicist Robert Oppenheimer. Okay. And then next, on this day in 1955, segregation in buses and terminals were banned by the Interstate Commerce Commission. So that's their logo. So those of you who know your history, not from America, Americans would know their history a lot more in this regard. Segregation, obviously, whites and blacks were not allowed to go on the same public transport. If they were, they'd have to stay at the back. And the Rosa Parks famously refused and, started a spate of protests in America, which led to the freedoms that African Americans enjoy today, essentially. She was not the only one, obviously. There were others in the struggle, notably Martin Luther King, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that was history as it happened on this day in 1955. Segregation in buses and terminals banned by Interstate Commerce Commission. 1975. On this day, Suriname gained its independence from the Netherlands. So that's the celebration, the commemoration of their independence not too long ago. 1975, on this day, Suriname gained its independence from the Netherlands. So that's the flag of Suriname. Face of Suriname. Another face of Suriname. He says, I may live in Holland, but I am still Surinamese or from Suriname. Anyway, so that's a Suriname woman. Okay, so let's move on now to the year 2005. Sadly, on this day, we lost George Best, pictured here. George Best was an Irish-born football player, or soccer player for the Americans, who was one of the premier forwards in the game's history and an iconic figure of swinging London during the 1960s. So again, he died on this day in London 15 years ago in 2005. So one more picture of George Best here doing his thing. Sadly, I think he had some problems with alcohol abuse. I remember vaguely when he was rushed to hospital a few times, and he eventually succumbed to, I think it was liver disease, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so I alluded to this at the beginning of this video, and this is the leader and the country. So Fidel Castro, Cuban political leader, president, who transformed his country into the first communist state in the Western Hemisphere and became a symbol of communist revolution in Latin America, died at the age of 90. Full name, Fidel Alejandro Castro Ruiz. He was a Cuban revolutionary and politician, served as Prime Minister from 1959 to 1976. That's a long time, 17 years, and then President from 1976 to 2008. Wow. Ideologically, a Marxist-Leninist and Cuban nationalist, he also served as the first secretary of the Communist Party of Cuba from 1961 until 2011, so a span of half a century, 50 years. Under his administration, the Republic of Cuba became a one-party communist state. Industry and business were nationalized, and state socialist reforms were implemented throughout society. So again, Cuban political leader Fidel Castro, President and Prime Minister, former President and Prime Minister, he died on this day 4 years ago in 2016. I don't know what your thoughts are about communism compared to democracy or other forms of government, but I hear Cuba is very safe and very ancient in a lot of ways. Children are still a bit able to play outside like we did when we were growing up. I'm not saying they don't do so these days, but in the West, we seem to spend a lot of time as the kids of these days. They're indoors with their games, they're not socializing as much. They're not getting out there and dirty, and it's good. This is good dirt now where your immune system, you build a stronger immune system when you go out and play and hang around with slugs and dirt and so on. But when you're raised in a sterile environment, when you go out into the real world, you're more likely to be susceptible to different kinds of diseases and infections and so on and so forth. People can go hang out and play card games in Cuba. People have fun. They don't have much, but they're happy. My thinking is that most Cubans are happier than most of us, in the Western world. I may be wrong, but life is a lot simpler. You go to Cuba, and I've never been there. I've seen pictures, I've heard stories, but it's like going back to the past, going back to a simpler time when you had almost no care in the world. So there's good and bad in everything, but this is something. Cuba is one of the countries I would like to visit, before I kick the bucket. So that's it, guys, for today, November 25th. Thanks for dropping by. I shall see you tomorrow, hopefully, for another edition of Today in History. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe by clicking the notification bell so that you receive updates of my video uploads. Thanks again for dropping by. See you tomorrow. Stay safe. Bye-bye.